Welcome back to SJU. I am the new Bachelorette. What?
Yeah.
That's not what's happening in any way, shape, or form. This was the first announcement of
I
that.
wish.
I don't watch the show enough that I literally had to pause and say, is the word bachelor or bachelorette? I'm a bachelorette, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, et. That's all the difference. Joe Starr is the one nodding his head as to not make me feel so alone
I
in
would
this
be a
moment.
bachelor.
I don't feel like you're pronouncing that correctly.
No, it's because I'm a. Yeah, no, I am. I definitely am.
Bachelor.
Yeah, I'm a single man invested in historical details of fictional works.
None of this is true. Although lore, I
It's a long way to go for that.
no.
God.
I saw Dan slowly getting disappointed in me.
Fine, I'll go to him right now then. Dan Murrell, I'm happy about it because he's apparently agreeing with or disagreeing with Joe. That means maybe we'll agree today.
That's true.
Wow, that's how that
Someday.
works. And a very special guest back for the third time on the show, Steph Sabraw.
Hi guys, so glad to be here again.
What's up, homie?
What?
Ryan
What?
said boom off
What,
camera.
what
off
is
mic,
Ryan
off
saying?
camera, Ryan just
Guys,
goes boom.
Ryan is staring at me and making, I thought he was saying boo.
I thought he said boo. I was like, oh shh.
Boo. Ryan and I are not seeing eye to eye this week for some reason.
No more Ryan shots.
Ryan, we'll talk
It really
after.
did sound. It sounded like I said Steph Sabraw and Ryan said boo. Boo. It's like Princess
We're
Princess
trying to
Bride.
like set you up as
Yeah.
the bad girl
Yeah, make
of
me the
SJU.
heel.
Do you guys know that scene in Princess Bride? Boo. Boo.
I do.
Great movie.
God.
Oh, you're not into it this morning?
Sorry, I'm just. It's like jumping onto a treadmill that's already going at 7 miles an hour. I just have to get my legs under me.
You gotta
for
do
a
your
second.
stretching, man.
Freight train. Yeah. Well, actually, we have some amazing stories to talk about today, so it will be a really good one. Amazing as in controversial and also confusing, and we're definitely going to break them down. We're going to talk Sony and Spider-Man just when you think that the news is over. It is not. Crazy Rich Asians. I'm sure we have some thoughts at this table. I'm really excited to hear what you guys think because I don't know where I stand currently at the moment for that. And also Patty Jenkins going to Netflix, tons of stuff, and Fan Friday. So
Well, there you
I'm
go.
going to practice my dance right now. No, my dance.
Oh my god.
Roxy and I decided that if somebody wants to challenge me on like box office numbers, my new catchphrase is, "Oh, so you think you can dance?"
It was so,
That's good.
so funny
That's
when he
real
says
good.
it.
This side of the table of fruit.
I kind of thought I was going to get a laugh like that. But
Oh, with
I
the-
didn't. Yeah, this is awkward now.
But you co-authored that joke.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Which we're going to talk about later in the show about
at this
co-authoring
blooming-
funny comedies.
You just, you're a writer's room now.
He's like,
It's like a really big day for me. But who it's not a big day for is Spider-Man. Great segue, Rox. Sony Pictures chairman and CEO Tony Vinciquerra spoke at Variety's Entertainment and Technology Summit about Spider-Man, and I have a feeling you guys are not going to be super stoked about what he said. He said, quote, "For the moment, the door is closed," end quote, referring to the Disney Sony Spider-Man debacle. Doors closed sounds pretty definitive, but for the moment sounds a little bit more ambiguous. Do you guys think that this is a quote that we should really take, should hold a lot of weight? Do you think that this door really is closed? Or do you think this moment could be a very short moment and in a month we could be talking about a different moment, Dan? Joe, come
I
in.
just think that when he follows that up when someone says, "Yeah, but could the door open?" When he goes, "Well, it's a long life." I think
Yeah.
it's pretty well shot. I think mom and dad have inked the divorce, and yeah.
No.
No,
No.
no.
Ain't nothing changed but the thumbnail, baby. This is nothing. This is the same story that it was yesterday.
Oh, he's on the treadmill now.
I'm glad that we found something to replace the "Is Ben Affleck gonna leave his Batman" story because this is the new Hamlet of the superhero news world.
I'm into it.
It's the same situation that we were in yesterday. I don't think anything has changed. I just think they have to stand in front of a microphone and talk.
Okay. So you think that we could very well, in a week, a month,
Yes.
2 weeks,
You think
7
Favreau's going to
months-
do some mediating?
What?
You think Favreau's going to do some mediating between
I think
the two?
There's going to be a secret meeting in the basement of Pinewood Studios in London,
I was going to say Chili's, but okay.
or a Chili's,
Yep.
where there's going to be a conference call between Jimmy Carter and the involved parties, and for some reason Elon Musk. and they're going to sit
Absolutely.
down and work this out.
He should be there.
Yeah, he should.
We don't know what Elon Musk could or could not do for this
We
deal.
don't. We
No.
really don't. He's going to build a tunnel for Sony. It's going to be the sweetener.
It's gonna go from from the Sony lot to Disney.
Sony Tunnelgate.
exactly.
Steph,
Yeah.
what do you think? Do you think that this is pretty permanent, or are you in Camp Dan where you think this could change pretty quickly?
I don't think it's permanent. I just love the way that these executives and businessmen are talking to each other now, because there's a lot more sass than there's ever been. Like, to be like, we're gonna be just fine. Like, who says that anymore? It sounds like a really bad breakup.
They are weird subtweets. Yeah.
Yes. And I love it though, because in an age of everyone being so PC with the Popeyes and Chick-fil-A battle, like Twitter is going off. The way people are talking to each other is so amusing to me. So I'm kind of here for the drama.
We're fine.
We're fine.
Yeah.
Okay, let's break that part down though, because they are saying, Kevin Feige didn't do all the work. We did a lot of the work, and we are fine. Do we feel like they are fine without the Disney stamp Kevin Feige master?
I think this is the day where I become your Roxy, because I think we disagree on this a lot.
Yes,
Probably,
yes,
yeah.
duke it out.
Because I think they're good, man. I think the Spider-Verse just won an Oscar. The track record is a winning track record. First Spider-Man, very good. Spider-Man 2, great. Spider-Man 3, not so great. Amazing Spider-Man, fine. Amazing Spider-Man 2, very
Amazing,
bad.
so good. Amazing Spider-Man 2, one of the best movies out
Middling
there.
opinions on Amazing Spider-Man 2 confirmed.
Yeah.
We
So
averaged
good.
out in the center. Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. And then Spider-Verse, incredible. Not like a flawless record, but still like a winning record. Like I really think they're good, man. I think they're going to be okay.
Dan?
The last time Sony made a great live-action Spider-Man movie on their own was 15 years ago. I
was not legal at the time. That was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
15 years.
15 years
A lot can
ago.
happen in 15 years.
It's a weird way to denote your age.
but I'm just going to move past that.
We're in a weird headspace today. Joe, thanks for noting it.
So yeah, I mean, it's again, I think this is when they go into production on a Marvel-less Sony movie is when I believe that okay, it's done. I think this is public negotiation. I think this is posturing. I just don't. I think we're way too early in this process to be like it's a done deal.
Yeah.
Never gonna happen. It's there's just too many things involved. But if this were to become final, it depends on the creatives that they attach to the movie. It's 100% involved. The reason that's Spider-Verse was a great movie because of the creatives involved, not because Papa Sony descended down and made it a great movie.
Yeah.
You're only as good as the creatives you get and then the license that you, as a studio, you allow your creatives to have if they have a strong vision. So
Full agree.
it depends on who's directing it, who's writing it, what latitude they're given. I mean, we'll get to it, but I think he already said Spider-Man is going to have a great time. He'll play off the other characters as well. Well, that sounds like they just want to throw him into a movie with Venom, which is how Spider-Man 3 happened, So it just depends on what their strategy is.
Another interesting part of his quote actually was saying, "We tried to see if there's a way to work it out." Keep claiming, both sides keep claiming, we tried, guys. Do you hear us? We tried. I don't necessarily feel that is fully the case, that everybody tried that hard. It kind of seems like it was a 1-2 punch. Here's what we're asking for. No, we won't give you that. Okay, we're out, homies. Now, that might just be because I'm sitting from here and they're not releasing every detail of, first we went to 50, then we went to 30, then we went to 15, then we went back up to 25. Obviously, I'm not privy to those conversations, but do we really feel like they gave it their all, or do we think that the reason this might still be on the table is because they haven't fully negotiated and this is actually part of the negotiating tactics? Steph, thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely a part of it, and I think that they want to see the public response because I think a lot of companies are making their decisions now based on how pissed people get, and also sometimes taking ideas from public opinion. And so I just think they're trying to get a rise out of everyone, which they are.
When you
It's
say
working.
they, you mean Sony and Disney?
Yeah,
on
both of
sides.
them.
Yeah.
I think they're both strong-arming each other, and it's a full-blown relationship.
I think that the interesting thing about what you're saying and what Dan's saying too is in terms of when is this a done deal, I honestly think those first salvos of movies are still technically a part of these conversations. You know, if the first Spider-Man movie lands with sans Feige and it's great, Sony can go, well, let's maybe revisit the terms of the fur. And if it's another Spider-Man 3, then Disney can just kind of, you know, throw a little mouse hat on the ground at the door, you know, leave a goofy head in the bed of Papa Sony or, you know, whatever.
I know you could do that.
Shame if something happened to your spider.
Oh, look at that!
What? Two of you?
Looks like you needed me after all.
One table.
Mickey in stereo.
I'm altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
I honestly don't know where to go from there. I want to try, but I'm scared, guys. I'm scared.
You knew the job when you took it, Roxy.
This is like a crazy one.
Oh my gosh, you sound like the South Park guy.
Mr. Hanky.
Yes,
a little more hanky than Mickey.
Well, thank you.
A legend.
Appreciate,
That's better, honestly.
Appreciate that. Dan, question for you, because the studio is currently in production on Venom, a picture based on the character Morbius, and 5 or 6 TV series set in the Spider-Man world. Mm-hmm. You talked about those other characters that they'll just stick Spidey in with. Do you think that this is a good enough slate? Do you think that Spidey will shine in these 3 different areas?
Again, TV-wise, I don't know. It's we've never really stress tested the marketplace for Spider-Man content. I mean, Spider-Verse did okay. It was a great movie, but financially, it wasn't a blockbuster. However, I do think that the sequel will do better because people will have found it. Mm-hmm. But we've never really done this huge test of like how much Spider-Man content do the fans want and does the market want. So again, I think it depends on how good the shows are. I do think that Marvel showed through their Netflix series that as they went on and added more, interest did seem to wane the more that you folded a series into it. Even series like Luke Cage that were critically acclaimed, that fans seemed to enjoy, over time they diminished.
100%.
And so I we'll see how it works with Disney Plus, but I do think that there are some question marks as far as, you know, is there a point at which, particularly when you're splitting mediums across TV and movies and everything, at which fans are just like, it's too much, and they start choosing which ones to not support and not watch in large enough numbers that people go like, oh, maybe this isn't worth it. Yeah. But
is there as much clamoring for Spider-Man as there is for Batman? I feel like that's a no.
I think with Tom Holland, I don't. Or are you just saying the character in general?
Just in general, because what Dan's just talking about is we don't know if people are craving that on TV the same way.
I think there's an interesting challenge for Spider-Man versus Batman, or even the MCU and the Avengers. Spider-Man has a really fantastic supporting cast and a rogues gallery. So does Batman, so does the MCU, but I think Batman and the MCU have a little more of an advantage because Batman's fantastic supporting cast can also stand alone, like very easily independently of Batman.
And we're finding out if Spider-Man's can or can't right now.
Right, yeah. And, you know, like in Marvel, the concept of the Avengers is usually we're standing apart. And every now and then, every 5 years, we do a really big Avengers movie. So, you know, it's built in that they can stand alone. Spider-Man, I don't know. Like, all those characters are great, but I don't know if you can just do a Norman Osborn show, like, that's not anchored directly to Spider-Man, or just do a Sinister Six show that's anchored just directly. Mm-hmm. Or even a Keaton Vulture project without directly anchoring it to Spider-Man.
I guess we'll see, because we're going to have to push the boundaries if we're not merging with Disney and they're not part of this anymore. We are very curious what you guys think, though. Do you think that this is the last that we're going to hear of it, or are you dancing with Dan and think that we will hear way more? Guys, I'll get there, I swear, at some point. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell. I was waiting because Ryan went on some venture, unclear where, and I was like, oh, I got to wait to hit the bell till he comes back. Otherwise, I pictured him sprinting in, tripping on something. So we're very curious your thoughts on this and all topics, so don't forget to comment so we know where you're at. Also, I wanted to tell you guys that September is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, and we're really we're highlighting an organization working with a highly at-risk portion of our population. I know that, Dan, you've met the Stack Up people before. Stack Up brings veterans and civilians together through a shared love of video gaming, which is pretty cool. Stack Up serves the U.S. and allied service members, veterans, and civilians to assist in crisis intervention, suicide prevention, and issues concerning mental health through gaming and community, which we definitely are a community here. Visit stackup.org for more information. Dan, you said they had visited at a Comic-Con
Yeah,
before?
we've been able to meet them the last 2 Comic-Cons, and
Joe, you as well?
the
they're
breadth
great
of
guys.
stuff that they do, not just through gaming, but through taking the members on experiential things like Comic-Con, different conventions, gaming events, to not only show them a great time, but getting veterans who may be struggling, readjusting, coming home, out in the world and experiencing the interaction, not just with each other, but at these events and stuff. It's really, really great work, and I'm so happy we can.
I love that we're teaming
continue
up
to
with
support
them.
them.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Let's talk a little Patty Jenkins, guys, because she signed a deal with Netflix. This is according to Variety. I think we're at a table full of Patty Jenkins fans here, so that's pretty exciting. She signed a 3-year deal that is valued at $10 million over the 3 years to do television series for them. The Channing Dungey, Dungy, thank you. Dungy sounds cool.
Dungy sounds
Yeah.
Dungy, yeah. The little
Dungy sounds like a off-brand jean brand at maybe Burlington Coat
Dungies.
Factory.
We'll just call him the vice president of the original series at Netflix. Yep. He said, we're thrilled to welcome Patty Jenkins to Netflix. They're really excited about it, as we are as well. We know her from Wonder Woman, and we also know her from Monster, and we will be knowing her from Wonder Woman 84. So Patty Jenkins working for 3 years with Netflix, $10 million. What are you guys thinking off the bat? Are you going to watch whatever it is that she pitches? Are you going to have to be interested in the specific topic? Are you looking for something? Joe, how are you feeling about this?
I think her resume is so varied because, again, you have Wonder Woman, you have Monster. She wrote and executive produced and directed a few episodes of I Am the Night. She directed a few episodes of Arrested Development. Like, she's really all over the place as a creative. So
Yeah, she's done a lot of directing comedy as well. Like you said,
Yeah.
Arrested Development, there's been a few more, but it's interesting. She's touched in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I'm really curious what it is. I think if she had signed some kind of deal over at Warner for HBO Max, is that what theirs is called? I'm losing track.
HBO Max
Yeah,
is
you're right.
Warner Media's new streaming platform. Yes, sir.
I would immediately tell you, oh, she's developing like the expanded Themyscira-verse or whatever. With this, I have no idea what the expectations are with her or what we can expect from her.
But will you watch whatever it is?
Monster's fantastic. Big Wonder Woman fan. I'm excited to see kind of what she does and what she has to offer.
Steph?
I'm also they're doing so much weird counter programming. So I was vaguely pointing at you and not that way.
It did look like you
Saved your lives.
Yeah, so it's like a James Bond thing where like you were gonna like shoot someone with a dart and like they like fall backwards.
Well, do you guys remember when we used to hide?
Steph, that's simple.
Where did you get another pen?
Me.
Exactly.
Me.
Ben, do you guys remember when we used to hide things in the studio, like
do.
action figures and stuff? That's
Yep.
what I thought. I was going to turn around and there's still going to be like a little Nicolas Cage
Dark.
somewhere or something
Oh.
like that.
Can you imagine?
Well, that would have been creepy. Steph, how are you feeling about Patty Jenkins? Or is there something specific you're looking for in some area? Is it a genre?
No, I'm really excited for whatever she makes. I think, to your point, that it'll be, I don't think it will be anything specific that can come to the top of my mind. I think she's proved that she's talented, so I'm excited to see whatever she does. Obviously, if it's not good, it's not like I'm a ride or die, I'll watch whatever she does, but I want to give anything she does a chance.
Okay. Dan, how about you? Anything you're looking for?
Good television or whatever movies or whatever she develops there. Yeah, I mean it's hard for me to say like I'll definitely watch anything that anyone develops because there's so much TV and movies and everything else and only more every day that I can't. It's like to cut through the noise. It's pretty tough. So, but I'm certainly intrigued to see what she develops.
I
there.
don't think it'll be a cape thing. I don't think it'll be a superhero-y comic. It seems like Netflix is kind of drawing a line in the sand of being like, you guys do all the superhero stuff. We're going to give you the alternative to that.
We're doing original IP. Yeah. It's interesting because Ryan Murphy, who it was previously announced that he signed a $300 million deal with Netflix, which is a little different than a $10 million deal. But
Just
it
a
is,
little bit.
It is Ryan Murphy, though, and he has created some of the most lucrative shows of all time. So he does have a lot under his belt. But I kind of feel like that 10 million, and we're going to be talking about this with Crazy Rich Asians as well, but that 10 million for Patty over 3 years versus the 300 million for Ryan Murphy is such a massive difference. We know more about his slate. He's going to be doing 3 Broadway musical adaptations, 3 documentary series, and at least 4 series or mini series that he's working on right now. So he has clearly like more of a plan. Maybe he's producing more, pushing more out. That might be where some of this the finances are different. But what do you guys think hearing those numbers just off the bat? Does that make sense to you? Or are you feeling like one of those is too high, one of those is too low?
It makes sense to me on a couple of levels. Obviously, we don't know the details of what's expected of either of them. Whether Patty is just doing a fake writer's room or she's shouting out ideas or they're having her develop 2 things. And even just on level of, let's look at, your IMDb and sort of where you're at. Patty Jenkins has created some really awesome stuff. Ryan Murphy has created all of it. I don't know.
I hear you.
I mean, just so I think there are 9 of him. Like, I don't know how he's.
Well, I do hear that he sticks around for pilot.
Sure.
Dip sets a little bit, and that's what you have to do if you're creating as much stuff as he is.
Yeah. And just looking at the slate we've got laid out in front of us that he's announced, it's
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
insane.
Yeah, a disco era miniseries, an adaptation of a chorus line, a 10-part documentary about Andy Warhol.
When you compare the two, I think it's a little bit. Like
more understandable.
Yeah, you can't really compare these two. They're completely different, and I do respect what you've created and what you've done and the name that you've made for yourself. So I don't necessarily compare them, but when you compare her to other Netflix deals that have been signed, that's where I start to question what is she going to do, but we don't know yet. So I am curious to see exactly what they expect from her and what she plans to do with them.
Yeah, she said, I'm so excited to embark on a great journey of making the new world of television with a company and group of people I admire so much. And so that sounds to me like this is just like an intro to TV for her. Maybe that means 1 show a year. Maybe that means mini-series, and we're going to get a few different, an anthology thing. Maybe that means 2 shows. So it really is like comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah, and I was also, sorry, I was just looking up, Shonda Rhimes' deal was a 9-figure deal, similar to Ryan Murphy's. So I think it
Shonda forever, baby.
Yeah,
forever.
I think it's very dependent on what you're producing,
doing.
and also the fact that Shonda Rhimes and Ryan Murphy have extensive history of developing television series, launching successful, profitable, multi-year, multi-episode, award-winning, Emmy-winning television. And Patty Jenkins is a fantastic filmmaker, perhaps not as versed in this particular field as far as launching content, television content. And I agree, we also don't know what this deal is for.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't want to characterize it without knowing.
Agreed. And for me, this isn't a gender conversation with Patty Jenkins and Ryan Murphy. I think when I hear Patty Jenkins and what she's doing and making Wonder Woman 84, all of that, 10 million sounds a little low, not even in comparison to anything else. It just sounds like 3 million a year for her. I would think would be slightly higher, but she's never done this before. So maybe her next 3-year deal triples, quadruples, anything like that. The real story with this pay discrepancy, the pay disputes going on right now, is with Crazy Rich Asians, which we'll talk about in a second. But before we do that, guys, I want to make sure that you guys know we have tons of content on Fandom and Screen Junkies. Some great stuff going on, including with this guy next to me, charting with Dan's summer box office recap. That now that the summer season is over, saying that makes me feel really sad. I don't want to.
Hot Girl Summer Forever.
Yeah.
Hot Girl Box Office Summer.
Hot Girl Box Office Forever. Honest trailer for the 90s version of It is out now, as well as the Honest Trailers commentary, which is pretty cool also. And Movie Fights returns this Saturday. Yay! Woo! People at home right now are chanting, woo, 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 woo. 3 seated fighters, 3 seated judges, and 5, and I quote, friggin' questions. Yeah. So a lot of stuff going on. Don't forget to check out everything on Fandom and Screen Junkies.
Quick programming note.
Yes.
I had mentioned earlier, this is a lesson for me to not count my chickens before they hatch. I had mentioned earlier this week that we would have a spoiler review for It Chapter 2 up this weekend. Unfortunately, we just are not able to make that happen. A lot of people on vacation this week and a lot of other projects happening, and it just was not a possibility. So
No worries.
we're hoping to still do it? Question mark? But I'm not going to guarantee it because I've learned my lesson.
Maybe
Hopefully soon.
it will just
I would
be
say.
a pleasant surprise if and when it does happen.
Yes.
That's how we're thinking of it.
Hoping to do it. We like to do those spoiler reviews, but it's just scheduling is tough around here.
Oh yeah. I don't even know how you guys do all the things that you manage to do. So I think you've counted plenty of chickens, and many of them have hatched.
Many
That's
of
a
us.
weird
Some of them have.
Guys, my verbiage today is just on fire.
You're killing
my
it.
phrasing
You're
of all of
amazing.
my
You're always killing it.
just really good.
You can't count your chickens without breaking a few eggs.
What? Hey. Across the road
Yes, across the road.
To get to the other side?
of the eggs.
Oh, okay.
And that's no you.
Sure, Crazy Rich Asians.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
So Adele Lim has left the project at Warner Brothers. They're planning to shoot 2 back-to-back films to accommodate its in-demand stars. Crazy Rich Asians was obviously just such a massive hit, and now they were going to do 2 back-to-back. But the co-writer Peter Chiarelli, hopefully somewhere in that ballpark, he's been an experienced screenwriter. He wrote 2009's The Proposal, and he is being offered a significantly higher fee than Lim was. She had never written a feature before, but she was a veteran TV writer. So it's interesting, again, talking about comparing apples and oranges a little bit, but he was being offered somewhere around that $800,000 to $1 million, and she was being offered $110,000. So huge gap between those two. Curious your guys' initial thoughts on him being offered so much more with more experience in this specific area. Dan, what do you think about it?
This is where I'm a little. I don't quite understand, because looking at their experience, just from an experience angle, because that's the first thing I looked at, was like, okay, well, how much experience? This was her first movie, but she had written many TV, like over a dozen episodes of television over several years. So not a new writer, but yes, this was her first movie. And then Peter Chiarelli, he wrote the screenplay for The Proposal, but his only other screenwriting credit was a story credit on Now You See Me Too. Not even a screenplay credit, but a story credit on Now You See Me Too. So while it's true that he had written more movies, he's only written one more movie that came out 10 years ago, and then a story credit on another movie. So
Wow, 2009 was
just
10 years ago.
Yeah, it was. And so for me, it's like, from an experience point of view, like, I don't see a $800,000 gap between one movie and a bunch of TV work, and like 2 movies and a story credit and no TV work. And then he was a co-producer on Eagle Eye. So, I mean, he had more experience in the feature realm, I guess, but like not such an overwhelming amount more that I would be like, oh, well, I see why it's an $800,000 offer higher than what they gave her. So I the experience angle doesn't really hold a lot of water for me.
Okay.
So this is a little more, I think, where you just have to look at it and just say, like, we know that this has been a problem that has gone on in Hollywood forever. The experience angle, I don't see that. I could see maybe some difference, but I don't see that vast of a gulf given their 2 respective resumes.
Steph, how are you feeling about it?
I don't know exactly the experience level and how that affects pay, but I do think it's really interesting because the part where she was talking about if we can't get pay equality, and then especially women of color, for a film like this that is about people of color, specifically Asian people, when would we possibly get it? That is really true. I mean, that kind of freaks me out, because for these specific films, Asian woman's narrative and ideas in a writer's room is so essential and invaluable. I don't understand how you could undercut her, but I don't know the exact way they deal with money.
Yeah, I think, honestly, like, even at, let's look at it as cynically as possible. Even if the only reason you were interested in that was on a pure optics level, how in the world does that get past someone's desk? Like, hey guys, like that's going to be a terrible look. Like, even if you're most cynical, like if that's all you care about, like it's still like a weird thing to just let slip, and then to double down and be like, well, that's the scale. Like,
Yeah.
She co-wrote a script that made so much money for you. Like that. I almost get it if it's reversed, and the rags to riches story of Crazy Rich Asians going to production is like, do you remember when the first one came out and the screenwriters sold it for like a paltry $100,000?
Yeah.
Now the second one's out, and they've proven it's a juggernaut, and now it's a whole different story. Like I feel like that's how you're used to seeing that narrative presented. Like you got a very standard base for a screenplay, and you move up from there.
There's a couple more elements to this story, kind of like we're talking about right now. Warner's explained to Lim's reps that the quotes are industry standard, established ranges based on experience. Dan, you kind of just broke down that experience
I just
part
don't
of it.
see that goal. I don't see how
Right.
it's that far away if it's based on experience, because she has a lot of experience in television, and I know that it's a different medium, but I think that's comparable to having written one feature screenplay and story credit on another. That feels like comparable experience.
Experience is such like a. It feels like a very undefinable. We can kind of use this to keep the wolves at bay.
Shouldn't the only experience that matters be the fact that they co-wrote a hit movie together?
Yes.
And you want both of them back to co-write this movie, this sequel to that exact movie? Like, that seems to be the only relevant experience, considering it's not an unproven. It's not the first movie. Yeah. It's the sequel to the movie that's already proven to be popular. So why would I don't even know why prior experience would be as much of an issue, because it's a proven track record.
She's proven it already.
Yeah,
that's the best experience.
It's interesting, and I'll have to go back, and if I have time today, I'll retweet the people I found. But I have seen other screenwriters and television writers step up online and say, I haven't written much more, and I've been offered substantial more amounts than 100. It just seems like such a weird, bizarre thing to double down on.
So just a couple other things that I do want to mention that are at play here to see if this changes anybody's opinion. Lim had already inked a first position contract with Disney Animation for 4 years, but apparently that they did say that they would carve out time based on her availability, so that shouldn't have affected this. And also that Chiarelli volunteered to split his fee with her. He offered to split that, but she said, Pete has been nothing but incredibly gracious, but what I make shouldn't be dependent on the generosity of the white guy writer. Which is an interesting thing that we've been seeing happening with the talent, whether that be actors, writers. We saw it on All the Money in the World. Was that the name of that movie that... with
Michelle Williams and Mark
Wahlberg.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing this where it's not necessarily the people who are supposed to be doing the talent justice, but them that are looking at each other saying, I'll split this with you, I'll give this to you, whatever it is. What do you guys think? Does that add an opinion that you didn't have previously, Dan?
I think it also highlights for me another, like, separate and apart from the struggles that a lot of women, in particular women of color, have in achieving parity and pay. I think this also highlights something that affects the Hollywood economy, and I think us being in the industry, not from like, I'm in the industry, but just like literally life experience. I know I have certainly experienced this, and I bet we probably all have at this table, this like experience economy that a lot of people try to do to underpay people in general, which is like, well, you're doing a job that's worth this, but I'm going to pay you 25% of what that's worth because, well, you're getting the experience. Which is, that's certainly valuable, but at the same time, I think a lot of times, like, again, like, there's a proven track record of success here to sort of be like, well, you know, you're getting the experience and that's priceless. Like, no, it's not. Pay people what they're worth. Pay people for what they have proven. It's a proven track record. Now, this is a first-time screenwriter who's never been in a writer's room, who's never written a screenplay. I can understand this thing of just like, well, you know, you need to prove yourself, you need to get the experience. But this idea of just like, well, you're still not experienced enough. It's like, no. She co-wrote a movie that made so much money for the studio. She has proven her worth. She has proven that she doesn't need experience, and just like
people credit her for reviving a genre.
Yeah, like pay her what I mean. It's like they should both get, unless there was some arrangement that's not come out where he was going to write the screenplay by himself and she was going to come in for 2 weeks or a month and pitch the story. Which that I've seen no indication of that here.
Somebody would say that if that was the case at this point.
I don't see any reason why there should be anything about experience factoring into this whatsoever. It's like they've both proven that they can do this, so why should there be any discussion about like
so let's actually try to answer that question. If it is not experience, if that's the word they're using but that's not actually what's going on, what do you guys think is going on here? Is it because she is a woman of color that she is not getting equal pay? Is it because they don't believe she is as valuable to this project for one reason or another? Is it for a reason that I can't come up with in my head?
I think it's a mix of a lot of those things. I think in this industry, it's often a tactic to find the person that you can step on a little bit and step on them, and to use terms like experience and the experience economy and stuff like that. Because you have a writer who's co-written her first screenplay, made tons of money, and they're saying, oh well, you know, this is an industry standard. But you have other writers that work in this industry whose experience is writing strings of bombs that continually lose money, who make $3 million, $5 million, $6 million per script. So again, yeah, it's a weird coded for whatever reason, whether it's because we know that we can step on you, because we know that like you have to scrap so much, you're going to kind of just take what you're given. Yeah, it's a weird mix of that. It's bizarre watching them double down in public on it.
Yeah, I agree, Steph.
Yeah, I think it's an intrinsic thing of them not valuing women, and whoever is controlling this hiring and this paying has some things that they need to break down personally, because I do think when you look at all the facts, you look at how outspoken people are when it's an industry, when you're outspoken and you're wrong, you can be just blacklisted forever. And we have two people that are coming out very strong and willing to give some of their pay and then willing to out the entire production for this. I think that it is just a lack of value of her perspective, of her skills and her talent.
Does this affect your guys' viewing experience of the Crazy Rich Asians sequel? Will you not go see it, or will you go see it, but this will be in the back of your mind? Or once, by the time we get to that point, are you hoping that this is water under the bridge?
There's a lot of steps between here and there. I do think my main thing is, you know, I'm not in the room. I don't know what this deal was. Like, I'm not privy to these negotiations. All I can say is that the reasons they're giving don't make sense. On their surface, they just don't seem to make sense to me.
They don't hold up.
Or they don't hold water to me. So I think it just depends on how this situation is handled, how it's resolved. You know, I think it's I like her move of saying that, like, you know, she appreciates the offer from her co-writer, but he and it's also, by the way, not fair to him that he would have to compromise, because I think that the money that they offered him is what they should both be getting. And I like the fact that she's saying, like, you know, I appreciate the gesture, but like, you also shouldn't have to compromise your value in order to make up for a low offer to me. You know, they should pay us both what we're worth.
That would feel so icky too, taking his money, because that is not her money, it's his. Her money is there, it's just not his, it's elsewhere. So being like, yeah, okay, I'll take half of your money, even though I'm not saying he's the kind of guy in any way that would be like, and now you owe me. I would feel that sense of this doesn't feel right. It feels icky to me.
I mean, it's nice, sort of that solidarity among creators to see, without even being like prodded or a couple of days to see how it plays out on social media or anything. Her co-writer coming forward and just being like, I would have gladly done this, I absolutely agree with her reasoning to not. I think to your question, there's a difference in my answer of, does this affect my viewing of Crazy Rich Asians 2 versus I think people who it was a lot more culturally important and relevant to, because I feel it, and if I'm speaking out of my butt, forgive me, but
no, that's still your mouth. You're good.
I feel like that was such like so many of my friends and fellow comedians and writers and creators saw that as such a win, that like a fully Asian cast could come in and just like crush the box office. And so the meta of this like ties so much into that victory and like what that movie actually means, that, for me, it's like, I hope it's a good movie and I hope it all works out. But I feel like for me, there's not as much like, I see this news drop on Twitter and like, my heart doesn't necessarily like drop the same way a lot of people's does.
As the only Asian American at the table and a woman, Steph, does this affect your viewing experience of Crazy Rich Asians 2?
I would hope. It just kind of sucks that I would want everything about it to be what it represents, which is beautiful representation and a really, really great idea, film, cast, everything. But it doesn't make me not want to see it, and it doesn't devalue the first Crazy Rich Asians, because to see all my family, all my Asian American friends see it, that you just can't take it away. It was so groundbreaking, and I hope that they can remedy it in some way. I think that they can. I don't think anything is set in stone. They can do stuff to like change the way, the optics of how it looks.
Well, to what you said earlier with Sony and Spider-Man, sort of that being a very public given of sass. There's no reason why this can't play out, in a similar way.
Okay, guys, we have time for one fan question. It is Fan Friday, so we got to get to it. Look, I didn't even have to tell him to hit it. He knew, baby. Spenny G in the his house. I got to stop saying his house. It's not 1992 anymore. Anyway, let's get to a fan question. Let's take one from Carson Ramirez. Thank you, Carson. These are all via the community tab, by the way. I know we've been trying to take more fan questions throughout the week, so write your questions. We're not just answering them only on Fridays anymore, all throughout, so make sure that you're getting them in. Carson says, what TV show opening credits do you think does a really good job of setting the tone of the series? I just finished watching the second season of Mindhunter, and the intro, I think, does a great job of setting the feeling of what the show is like. So we're talking TV show opening credits. Joe, I'm going to you first. Any opening credits that stand out to set the tone?
If you can call them opening credits, the stinger intro to Stranger Things. Will never be skip introed in my house. It does such a great job of like, here's your cold open and then boom, and you're back in. Like, even if the cold open hasn't grabbed you of that episode, like the intro like always does, and you're kind of like, okay, it's time.
Is it about the visual or the music or what is it?
I think just all of it just works. Just in harmony together. It's really fantastic.
Okay, Steph?
I have a few. Sabrina, Netflix. I love that intro. Westworld, I think, sets up the entire series and what you're getting. And Power. Now that they changed the theme song, I'm kind of pissed, but the original seasons had a great intro.
Cool. What about for you, Dan?
A few jump to mind. Daredevil. I always watch the entire because it's just it's so tonal with the heartbeat and the blood, and I just think that really worked well for the tone of that show. The Wire is one that I think is so much, especially because they would adjust it every season, so it would kind of thematically show you what the season was about. But the one that I really love and would watch is Mad Men. I think the opening sequence to Mad Men does
Right.
such a good job of setting up that thing of just like this kind of hip 60s thing, but also like tinged with the sadness and just the graphic design and the falling out of the window, this kind of fall from grace from the top, and it just like hits so many different things. Plus the song's just like fire. Like, I just love that song. But I just think it captures so much of like it's almost like Hitchcockian as far as like telling the story of the show thematically through the opening titles. And that's another one. Never skip intro. I would always sit and watch the entire intro to Mad Men.
One that I would change for their second season is Carnival Row. I don't know if you guys are watching.
Orlando Bloom, Carnival.
Carnival Row is so just like lore heavy and so dense and just
Batch lore.
yeah. Oh, it's a full batch of lore.
Lord of the
Roxy
Rings
Striar.
intro.
Yeah. Well, that's what
Full
they
circle.
need because they try to do sort of the artistic, pretty like
Modern take, yeah.
modern. Every episode needs maps and a voiceover.
Yes.
It's dense to get into because you're like, okay, who are you? And the character will almost look at the camera and be like, who I am is not important. What is important is that I am a representative of the Catadra intrigue of the islands of Stratos. And you're like, I don't know what's happening.
Okay, now I don't want to watch.
We didn't mention Game of Thrones though. Speaking of maps,
Yeah.
like that was always a great intro.
The
and
little
seeing
changes.
how it shifted a little bit, yeah.
And I should have said it's
iconic.
Hitchcockian, which is true, but I should have said Saul Bass with Mad Men because he actually designed those title sequences.
Okay.
Hitchcock films, but very Saul Bass were the
Saul
my-
Bass.
I have a couple. The OC.
Oh my God, Rox! Way to bring it back.
That was great. Talk about bringing it back. Fresh Prince. That for me was always like
Roxy slang.
just epic.
I miss the theme songs that used to like tell the story of the
whole
origin of the
story,
show.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because then
yeah.
you could watch with any of your friends, and they didn't need to know what was going on. And they just had to listen to the theme song. So that was really cool. And I loved The Leftovers. It changed a little bit, and it was creepy and weird, but it set the tone of the disappearing of the people. My least favorite ever, just to give a little shout out, Orange is the New Black. God, I skip that every time.
It was so long.
There's something about it too, like maybe this made it good, but I hated it because I felt sick after watching it every time. Just all the faces, and I was like, everybody's going to prison, and they're all there. It just, it was
there was a
upsetting.
little weird challenge with the song too because the song was very repetitive and it just didn't help that the credits were wrong because it almost felt like the song restarted.
Yeah, no.
It was weird. It was like animals.
It was
You've got time.
It was like an hour. It was a minute and 45 seconds or something crazy.
I wrote that down as one that I hate.
So you know who doesn't have time though? We do not have time anymore because we got to get out of here and enjoy the rest of our Fridays. We hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday. Joe, in the meantime, where can everybody keep up with you?
On the internet, Roxy Striar.
I got to tell him how to work on it. What do you mean you
That
have a
was
Twitter
really
now?
good, Joe.
Joe, tell them what the Twitter.
What's the
We
Twitter?
have a Twitter.
I have it.
We have a Twitter. The show.
Oh yeah. We took the old derelict SJ News Twitter handle and we're just calling it Screen Junkies Universe. And I don't know
we
what
are?
we're gonna do with it yet.
I didn't know that.
We Ryan,
Breaking news.
yesterday Ryan was like, "What if we did this?" And we went, "Okay." I don't know what we're gonna do with it. But
Drama,
it'll be fun.
like Sony and
Yeah,
yeah.
SJU.
Or just I think we might drop
Maybe
the
jokes.
results of our clown draft. On there for all to see.
Roxy jokes.
Yeah.
Roxy
Dancing in the dark.
Any drafts.
There it
of,
is.
yeah.
I knew I'd
Yeah,
get there.
if you want to Dan with the devil in the pale Murrell light, that's where we're gonna do it. Yeah.
Come on, that was so much better than mine.
It took me an hour and a half to get there, but
Yeah,
I
you wrote
wound
it
up
down.
and
I
got
see
it.
it. Steph, where can everybody keep up with you?
Just add Steph Sabraw, plain and simple.
Like to keep it plain simple. Dan, I know you've been working on these. I'm really proud of you.
I have been. Thank you. At Murrell Dan on Twitter. There's a review right here on Fandom Entertainment right now for It Chapter 2, a non-spoiler review. It's in theaters, so if you want to check that out either before or after you go see the movie, you can see that now. Charting with Dan, which was on Tuesday this week, recapping the summer box office. On Monday, we will, of course, be looking at the debut of It Chapter 2, which looks like it's going to do pretty well. It may set a worldwide horror opening weekend record.
Wow.
We'll see.
Okay.
Every day here on... or almost every day here on Screen Junkies Universe and elsewhere.
I'm at Roxy Striar. We will be back on Monday. Thank you to JT and Ryan, and we'll see you guys next week.